The Addams Family franchise has weirdly been a part of my life for a while. I grew up watching reruns of the show, my parents were always big fans, and I was even in the Addams Family musical my senior year of high school. Which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because no one wants to hear about how I was in a high school musical or about how I was a theater kid. I'm sorry, I guess I just have some repressed memories from high school. Despite my love and admiration for the Addams Family franchise, it wasn't until recently that I saw the films directed by Barry Sonnenfeld in the 90s, Addams Family and Addams Family Values, and I gotta say, I'm a little mad that I waited this long to watch them. I thought both of them were well made, entertaining, and enjoyable as fuck films, as well as movies I wished I had grown up with. I don't know why it took this long to see them, all I know is that I feel like shit for not watching them sooner. And also, Values is the far superior film. Tried to do some sleuthing on whether or not this is a controversial statement, and I didn't really get any definitive answer. Being that they are the gods of movie criticism, I headed over to Rotten Tomatoes to see the aggregate score the site gave the two films from professional critics and audiences alike. Critics seemed to agree with me that Values was better than the first with a 77% against a 64%, but when it came to audiences, they actually liked the first one more, albeit only by 3%. The total box office grosses tell a story here too. The first one was shot for $30 million and made $191.5 million back, while Values was shot for $47 million and only made $48 million back, seemingly answering the question as to why there wasn't a third one in the series in one eerie fell swoop. And Reunion doesn't count. I'm really not here to say anyone's wrong about this. I think both these movies are great, but I just feel it in my cold skeletal bones that Values is the better movie. That's why we're here today, right? Throughout the course of this video, I'm going to explain why Values is the far superior film and also why it stands on its own and why it's a must-watch during spooky season. And I promise, because I know how annoying it is, I am not going to start doing the snapping thing. Oh my god, who's playing it? I can't not snap. Oh my god! The biggest reason I feel that Values is the superior movie is because of the way it uses Fester. Specifically, the fact that Values actually uses Fester. Okay, let me explain here. I am not an idiot. I understand Fester was in the first movie. But if you've seen the first movie, you know that Fester practically amounted to Fester with amnesia Fester than actual Fester. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you need a quick refresher, essentially the crux of the plot in the first film is that Fester has been missing for years, and no one in the Addams family knows where he's at. All of a sudden, a strange woman shows up with a man who looks like Fester and sounds like Fester, and Gomez is more than elated to take him in as if he's his brother, which he of course is, but the movie doesn't really let him become Fester until much later. Of course, the movie has fun with Fester trying to act normal when he's around his quote-unquote mother as Gordon, and there's some comedy with him obviously trying to break out and become full Fester, like whenever he's playing around with Wednesday and Pugsley, but for most of the movie, Fester is much more restrained than we've ever seen him, and it's a detriment to the film because it disallows the family from playing at full strength. And I want to be clear, I'm not putting the fault on anyone in the cast. Christopher Lloyd as Fester, Raul Julia as Gomez, Angelica Houston as Morticia, as well as the rest of the cast are pitch perfect in their roles, but to me, this is more of a creative writing issue than anything else. Stopping one of your marquee characters from being one of your marquee characters because you decided to write a tired amnesia plotline is just a lack of foresight, and it's unfortunate because the rest of the family in the first one is great. They're all awesome and zany in themselves, but when they have to constantly worry about whether Fester is Fester, half the time Fester isn't even able to interact with them, it lessens the quality of the movie. Values fixes that just inherently with Fester being unlocked at the end of the first one. Fester being Fester really opens up so many avenues for comedy for himself and the whole character, and Values uses that to its fullest extent. I realize there is a case you can make that he gets locked away in Values 2 when he moves in with Debbie and is therefore banned from seeing his family, but you get to see him with his family for a large portion of the film before that, and when he's away with Debbie, he's still Fester. He hasn't lost his memory or anything. He's just Fester who's trying desperately to make Debbie love him, which is another great avenue for comedy. The meatloaf he makes for their anniversary is simply legendary, and Fester is truly the Gordon Ramsay of the Addams family. Speaking of Debbie, played by the awesome Joan Cusack, she is the MVP of this movie. Every scene she's in has this amazing energy. She's so much better than the main villain of the first one by far. When I sat down to write this out, I figured out why. The villain of the first movie, the loan shark Abigail Craven, as played by Elizabeth Wilson, is fine, but to me she acts more as a pause button for the fun the movie is having than anything else. Anytime Fester starts to become Fester, her job is essentially to stop him from doing so, which severely fucks up any pace and energy the movie starts to have. Yeah, Debbie eventually stops Fester from seeing his family, but she never stops Fester from being Fester. And Debbie even gets to have her own fun. Near the end, when she's torturing the family, she goes off on this tirade that just had me in stitches when I was watching it.
So I have to use persuasion and slides. My parents, Sharon and Dave. Generous, doting, or were they?
Those are the main reasons I think this movie is better than the first movie, but why do I think this movie is good on its own? First things first, like I've said before, the cast is fucking perfect. I haven't really talked about the kids that much in this, but they are a joy to watch. The summer camp the kids go to is especially fun, if not to see Wednesday interact with other children around her age, then to see how she messes with kids around her age whilst also falling into a youthful love. It's awesome to see the writers put these characters in such different situations and really play around with it. And I normally hate any plot involving the introduction of like a new baby or whatever. Essentially, I saw Garfield when I was 3 years old, and having to watch a whole movie about Garfield trying to kill Odie around the same time my brother was born scarred me for life. The Son of Mask is also a horseshit movie that uses the introduction of a baby for its plot. Addams Family Values, however, introduces a new baby to the family and I actually don't mind it. The movie actually plays around with this idea a lot, and the bit with Morticia enjoying the pain that comes from the birth of a child followed by the child coming out, already having a mustache like Gomez, is such a good bit. I'm also really jealous of that kid because, as it has been documented on this channel many times over, I cannot grow facial hair for shit. The comedy as a whole in this movie is just awesome. There are so many moments that stuck with me after watching because of how they made me laugh. Director Barry Sonnenfeld's camera is so quintessential in creating the energy needed for this humor, and the writers hold nothing back. There's a specific scene between Raul Julia and future Gomez Addams, Nathan Lane, that gets me every time I watch it.
I have seen all this, officer, but until today, I had never seen you.
Hook 'em, buck 'em, cook 'em.
Now!
Anyone who is looking for a nice movie to watch during a spooky season, or really any time, should definitely check Values out. It's better than the first movie and it stands out in its own. It also serves as an interesting commentary on the movies of today. A lot of the biggest movies that hit theaters, when those still existed, are movies that are based on already existing properties. Marvel and Star Wars obviously are the biggest ones, but in the past years we've seen Power Rangers, Jurassic Park, Jumanji, and more get rebooted or soft rebooted or whatever. The closest films I can really say the Addams Family movies resemble are the Jump Street movies. Both franchises take older, beloved, but kind of forgotten or stuck in the past television shows and turn them into movies that intend to appeal to old fans and new fans alike. But the key difference that separates these two franchises from other properties is that the Addams and Jump Street movies don't take themselves seriously whatsoever, and they poke fun at themselves constantly. The Brady Bunch movie fits in with this too, but I think the Addams and Jump Street movies just hold a much higher place in my heart, so that's why I'm talking about them today.
All right, everybody out. This is a car, Jack.
Well, of course this is a car. But my name's not Jack. It's Greg.
And this is my sister, Marcia.
Hi.
And you are?
Eddie. Wait a minute, didn't you hear me?
I really think this formula could be successful still, and I'm surprised they haven't tried to make another live-action Addams Family movie. I know they made an animated one last year, but come on, look at it. Do you really think I'm going to see a movie that looks like a rejected Borat sketch? Quick aside, just personally, I would love a film adaptation of the Addams Family musical. I think the musical has a ton of numbers that lend itself to film, and I think it would be fun as shit to see it on the big screen. And I am definitely not saying this because I'm biased and because this would be another movie I'd want to be in. No, that's not why.
Now, if only I could figure out this snapping shit, I would be fucking shitting pretty.
That's the way when you're an Addams. You need to have a sense of humor. When you're an Addams, you need to have a taste for death.